Welcome to the Princess and the Bee podcast, the place to be to build your empire as queen of your body, business, and life. I'm your host, Kimberly Spencer, founder of crownyourself.com, and I'm an award-winning coach, Amazon best-selling author, and multi-passionate entrepreneur. Each week, I give you the systems, strategies, and success stories to help you master your mindset, communicate with ease, and triple your productivity so you make the income and the impact you deserve. Imagine this podcast as your weekly spark of inspiration as you take it to the next level with all the bees of your life. Body, business, bank account, boys, and babies. Let's make it rain. Hello, and welcome back to the Princess and the Bee. As always, take a hot second of gratitude and thank yourself for choosing content that uplifts, up-levels, inspires, challenges you to rise into your highest and best. And speaking of rising and getting some range, I could not think of a better guest to have on this show than Cynthia Zhai, who is going to help us all speak out and use our true, authentic voice so that we are received and our messages are received with the level of confidence that we have in our hearts. Cynthia Zhai is a voice coach, speaker, and best-selling author. She has helped people from 46 countries across 5 continents empower themselves through the power of their voices. Cynthia has worked with many high-profile clients, including Simultaneous Interpreters at G8 Leaders Summit, a governmental forum attended by the heads of government. Cynthia has been a professional speaker and coach for the past 17 years, and her engagement spans 4 continents and countries and regions as far as the U.S., Finland, the Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, Argentina, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Macau, mainland China, India, Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines. Cynthia has appeared in the USA Discover to Your Talent show, Singapore radio program, 98.3 Live 4 times, Hong Kong Radio 3, and Malaysia business radio station BFM as a guest speaker on the subject of voice. Cynthia started her own healing journey through her voice 20 years ago. She was empowered by the power of her own voice and decided to help more people experience the power of their voices. She is on a mission to awaken the long-lost power of the human voice, help people uncover the incredible power in their voices, and use their voices to better serve the world. Cynthia, welcome. Your experience is awesome. I watched some of your YouTube videos of your training, and you are phenomenal at what you do. So what got you started in focusing on the voice specifically?
Yeah, so you know that there's a saying, we needed to learn, we teach what we needed to learn the most. So voice was one of the most important or challenging areas that I needed to work on when I just started my career about almost 2 decades ago now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, with the voice, what was it specifically that you were looking to hone or master 20 years ago?
Yes. So even though I was trained in singing, and I even was on my school radio station in the past, but still there was something in my voice that was not assertive, that was not powerful. And so one of the most challenging areas I worked on was the assertiveness. And the second area was to speak up, to be heard.
And I mean, knowing what I know about communication, voice is 38% of what communication is. If you're familiar, I'm sure you're familiar with the Mehrebian communication model. And for our audience, what the Mehrebian communication model is 55% of communication is physiological, 7% is language, but 38% is voice.
Yes.
So how can you shift or adjust your voice for to amplify who you are?
So, you know, first of all, I would like to make a comment on the importance of the voice you just mentioned, because you see that was the percentages when we were talking face to face. But now, most of the times, even on this podcast, we are talking only audio. And it's the same for many of my clients. They spend a lot of time on conference calls. So when it's only the conference call, the phone, people couldn't even see you. So the voice percentage is even higher.
Yeah, it would be like what, 93% then?
Yeah, that's right. So it's 93 to 97% voice over the phone.
And phone voice is incredibly important, not just for business, but for anything in your life. It shows confidence. It shows your ability to communicate and influence. Now, in your book, Influence Through Voice, you specify about how voice influences people's decisions on working with you.
Yes.
So how can we enhance our influence through voice?
Okay. So yeah, this also comes back to just now, the question you asked. So the first thing, if you want to influence through your voice or develop a powerful voice, the very first thing most people overlooked was to relax. The best voice comes from a relaxed body. And the nature of voice is vibration. So the vibration is very susceptible to any tension happening in our body. So when you're tensed, the voice is not going to come out very well. Like, for example, some of my clients, when they're nervous, their voice will be trembling. So that was kind of the extreme example when you are tense, how your voice will sound like. So one of the things people can do before they go on to an important meeting, an important phone call, or even a speech, they can make a sigh first, like,
Oh, I feel so much better already.
Yeah.
So sighing, now I loved what you said about the voice being vibration, because one of the things that science is discovering, and if you've been in the coaching world or the spiritual woo-woo world, there's the whole thing with like raise your vibe.
Yes.
Of that perception of like, because everything is energy and our voice carries energy, that is sound.
Yes.
And so how can you, in essence, raise the vibe of your voice? You said relaxing, but what happens when you're in the middle and you're feeling super shaky on stage or in a presentation or in a meeting or in a pitch meeting or on a conference call?
Yes.
What can you do in that moment when you're suddenly feeling the shakiness and almost defaulting to habit?
Yes. So then they will need to do a lot of pre-work. So the pre-work doesn't mean that they need to prepare. Now, of course, they need to prepare their presentation.
Yeah.
But the pre-work here we're talking about is to learn how to make the proper breathing a habit, how to make the proper projection a habit. Only when they become a habit, they become your second nature. So that when you are on stage, you are nervous, you don't need to think about how you breathe. Your voice, your breathing will just be there because they are habits.
I love that, because there's a learning curve to anything. I mean, when we were toddlers, we didn't know how to walk until we toddled and we fell over multiple times, and we modeled people who were able to do it. Just like learning how to speak whatever language that we speak. There's always that learning curve. And in the process of learning anything, it almost feels mechanical when you're trying different things out, especially in your body. How do you work through that almost mechanical feeling in the beginning stages before honing your voice becomes a natural habit?
Yes. So in the beginning, we are really like the toddlers. We are learning how to crawl first before we even learn how to walk. So many of my clients in the beginning, when we're doing the exercises, for example, just breathing itself, we have 3 different levels of breathing exercises. So some of my clients, they said, oh, I just need to learn the 3rd level, and then it will become a habit. So then I always use the toddler example to them. I said, now you're learning crawling before you even can walk. So they have to do the exercises on a step-by-step level, because the entire process is we are changing the way your body has been working.
I love that. You are changing people on a physiological level.
Yes.
Using their voice and breath. So why is breath so important with voice?
Okay, that's a great question. Because you see, when we are speaking, the voice was produced by the air going out. So when we are breathing out, the breath out is helping you to make the vibration of the vocal cords. So if you don't use the breath, then this is how you sound like. The voice is very dry, and it can
It
be.
sounds very tense.
Yes, yes. And it's not supported by the breath at all. So that's why we need to work on the breath, because breath is where your voice started.
How has your background as a singer allowed you to giving you that support of breath? Because I trained in singing when I was younger. When I was in high school, I wanted to be I wanted to be a Broadway star. And so I trained in singing, and breath is pivotal. It's
Yes.
the foundation to be
Yes.
able to get the resonance. But how do you hone that when you're in those, I think a lot of people have the perception that singing is different than speaking. So how do you break with those perceptions, and how do you differentiate how to use the breath between the two?
Yes. So what singing has helped me was made my progress to develop a speaking voice much faster than those who haven't done any training in either singing or even yoga. So that's how singing helped me. But the similarity between singing and speaking voice is that the breathing and the way we use breath is the same. But the difference is that the singing voice cannot translate to the speaking voice directly, because some of my, even for myself, when I just learned about the speaking voice, I realized that when I sing, I can sing with the support of my breath, with the support of my diaphragm. But when I speak, it was not translating to that. I was not able to use my diaphragm to support my speaking voice. So that's the difference, and that's where I learned.
The diaphragm is so fascinating.
Yeah.
From part of my background is that I was a Pilates instructor for 10 years, and the breathing with Pilates, it comes from that diaphragm, which is at the base of the rib cage, and it's a posterior lateral breathing, where you're breathing and expanding that bottom half of the rib cage and then squeezing it in with your exhale.
Yes.
And one of the things that I have found through both teaching Pilates and high performance coaching is that when we're stressed, we're using only about 1/3, and it's normally the top third of our lungs. It's not actually getting fully deeply into that breath.
That's
so
right.
What practices would you recommend that people do in order to get more in touch with the breath, to have more resonance in their speaking ability?
Okay. Yeah. So you know that nowadays, not only just people when they're tense, that they're only using 1/3 of their lung capacity, but also for most people, because of the constant stress at work or at home, they are using 1/3 of their lung capacity all the time. So to expand that, the first thing they can do is to be more aware. So to be more aware is not just how they breathe, but to be more aware whether they are using their breath when they're speaking, and how fast, how slowly they are using their breath. Because I've realized that in my clients, a lot of them, as we started to do the breath work, they realize, oh, I am holding my breath when I'm speaking. Then this is how they sound like when they're holding their breath and speak.
And now how does that when you hold your breath, or when you have a nasal sounding voice, or you
Mm,
have these, it sounds like you have tension. How is that reflected in how your voice is received?
mm. So in my workshops, I often demonstrate holding the breath and speak. So it's like this one. And then the participants will say, oh, this voice sounds monotonous, sounds very soft, sounds very fast. And also the other impression they got is this person might be hiding something, like what I'm demonstrating now. The voice is not coming out.
Mm.
There is an unconscious impression on people. Because they've not learned about voice, so they couldn't put their fingers on that, but they have an unconscious impression about this person.
I love the fact that you brought up the unconscious impressions, because
Yes.
it's our unconscious that we make our decisions with. Like when you're able to see somebody in person and maybe they look a little shifty, you walk to the other side of the street just to avoid them. And the same is true with the voice and holding. You can hear when Cynthia demonstrated the when you're holding back your breath, the
Mm-hmm.
perception is that you're actually holding back from the other person's
Yes.
perception. So they
Yes.
don't know whether it's you're holding back the breath. They just know that you're holding something back.
Yes. Yes.
And that alone creates a break in trust and makes you appear inauthentic.
That's right. Yes. So that's why some of my clients, they feel that they were not credible to their potential clients, but they didn't know what it is.
So what does being nasal, how does
Mm.
being nasal reflect on competency?
Yes. So nasality is the result of a tensed, at the back of the mouth is very tense. So when they have a nasal voice, one is people feel that you are not trustworthy. They don't trust your ability to be able to accomplish something, because a nasal voice can sound very young, very incompetent, like what I'm demonstrating now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's we're not making fun of them, but just to illustrate.
Oh, and I will tell our audience, I have the keen ability to slip into a higher pitched nasal voice when I get nervous, and you can tell it's there's a massive difference with the amount of breath I'm actually expelling and where I'm placing my voice in my mouth than when I'm feeling nervous and in that space where I suddenly get really high and tight and it's like up here and suddenly
Yes.
I sound like a little girl.
Yes. So the back of the mouth is getting tense. And then what we want to do is to relax. One is the side, the other one, it's a temporary solution, which is you can open the jaw a few times to relax it.
Ah, I'm doing that right now. Do it
Okay.
with me. So looking at the all that you've learned about the voice,
Mhm.
what are you currently researching and exploring about how our voices affect our ability to influence?
Okay. So I've been doing this for quite long. The so-called new thing is an old new thing, and which was related to something that you were just now talking about, which is the kind of woo-woo, maybe woo-woo to some people. So I just spoke at a sound healing conference where
Amazing.
where I talked about how to use our voice for healing. Because just now we talked about voice is vibration. So this vibration, when you are speaking with a nasal voice or a voice you are holding the breath, that vibration that sends out is not optimum. And when we are speaking, whether we know it or not, we are sending out a certain vibrational frequency. So that's why you see, we hear some people, we feel very relaxed. And then we hear another person, we just feel very tense. That was because the different vibrational frequency your body receives.
From the sound of the other person's voice.
Yes. So when we are working on the voice, developing the breathing, developing the resonance, we are actually optimizing your vibrational frequency. So when you are able to do that, not only you sound better, but also the vibration that you send out is much better. People feel more relaxed to listen to you. They feel more influenced by you, and they want to be around you.
So how can our voices heal ourselves, both our own selves and others as we use it with resonance and breath?
Yes. So there's another thing is that we can hear, what I say is we hear your world through your voice, which is, for example, the voice, the thing that we can hear is besides whether you're tense or relaxed, but also that where you might be stuck mentally, emotionally, physically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the things that we can hear from the voice. For example, some of my clients, they often experience the sore throat. It's not by talking a lot. It's just that they don't know why they have a sore throat all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of the times is because if we go, ooh, then we say that your throat chakra is not open.
Oh, I'm down with the woo-woo, Cynthia. So
okay.
it's very common. I've noticed that most many entrepreneurs and many creatives struggle with the throat chakra, the solar plexus chakra as well, which is basically where the diaphragm is as well.
Yes.
And it's those two chakras that are the ones that get, for lack of a better word, blocked in essence.
Yes.
So how do you unblock them?
So we work on a few things. One is that we use the breath and the resonance to open up this area. And then the second one is that we also work with the mind. So because a lot of times when you have throat chakra problems, it's because that you're not speaking up for yourself. You're holding back your words. So we work on the mental and emotional blocks that created those things in the first place.
Cynthia, I am literally cheering right now that you said that, because that is so true, especially the throat chakra with not speaking up for yourself, not saying what you mean, and not speaking with candor. So often as leaders, candor is not just speaking, is not just saying the truth. It's also saying those things that we want to withhold, maybe at the sake of some other person's feeling, or that with the desire to people please. But that withholding is also what gets stuck in the throat.
Yeah. So there are also some of my clients, they have the heart chakra is closed. So one of the things we do is to help them feel more and feel more authentically through their voices.
How do you lean into the feeling of the heart through the voice?
So one thing is that we want to, for example, one of the exercises we do is you started to pay attention to the words you say. For example, if we say the word refreshing, so we don't just say it's refreshing, then it doesn't sound refreshing.
Yeah.
So then we are working on, okay, what is it that refreshing is to you? If you can describe it with an image. Because if we want to go to the feeling, we have to go into the right brain, which is creativity, images. And so we started to visualize the image of refreshing, what's refreshing like. So for example, some of my clients, they will say, oh, I see a strawberry with water drops. So that's very vivid. And then not only you have this image, you cannot just look at this image from afar, then you're still in a left brain world, which is objectively observing. So then the very second step, it is very important that you must go into that image to experience that. And then because emotion comes at a specific moment. So then we go into the image, experience it at a certain image, then we feel that. When you feel that, you say the word refreshing.
Blown away by your brilliance, Cynthia. Oh my goodness. Like that is so true. It is. And it's something that I was working with a client on the other day of the words that you use. You have a specific internal representation that it means to you.
Yes.
If I said the word mother, Mother to me means something very different than the word mother to someone who grew up with a single mom, or to someone who grew up in a household with two dads, or
Yes.
to someone the word mother will connote a different image that has different sounds, different feelings, different pictures, different tastes, even if it's something like strawberries, or the different smells,
Mm.
and different self-talk
Yes.
in that whole visual image that is in your subconscious.
That's right. That is so true, because some of my clients, they are still very logical in the left brain. They will say that, oh, just now when you were saying refreshing, your voice was a little bit higher pitched, was a little bit like this, like that. So they were observing the techniques of the voice, and instead of getting into the feeling. And then I would tell them, I said, different people will have different interpretations of the same word. So that's why you cannot analyze the technique. You have to go into how you feel about this word.
So true, because you as much as you can model other people,
Mm.
and while that is a tool that can be used, it's about getting into what is your personal experience with that word, and how can you apply that technique internally. Change always starts at first from the inside,
Yes,
and then resonates
yes.
outwardly.
Yeah, so just this one process itself, it reveals a lot of problems. So for example, some of my clients would say, oh, how would people like to receive the word refreshing? So, so they don't look at how they are authentically feeling, but they think about how would people like to receive this word. Then they would adopt certain way to say that word.
Oh,
Yeah,
and that is in one way looking for external validation for being
that's
able
right.
to say one word. And the problem with that strategy is that when you're speaking to a crowd of 100 people, or even when you're speaking to a crowd of 10,
Yes,
everybody's going to have a different perception of how that word should and could be received.
yes, that's right.
So, why is it so important that we go inside to that feeling, to the experience of each word for ourselves versus looking externally?
Because one is you can heal yourself, because all these problems that you have, one of the reasons is that you are seeking external validation instead of seeking internal validation, and be more centered, be more grounded. So in order to be more centered, more grounded, and also authentic, you have to go inward to look for how you feel.
Cheering, completely cheering, completely cheering. Because the thing is external validation, it's nobody else's responsibility to believe in you, but if you're
Mm.
looking to other people to believe in you, then you're gonna because you'll never find what you don't see already within yourself.
Yes.
And I love your whole construct of using the voice to guide this process of internal healing and expressing your authentic best self.
Mm.
So in the process, and with my experience with training high performers, when you're shifting your internal world, you're shifting in essence your identity.
Mm.
And sometimes that identity can like shifting that identity, there's some resistance to that. Obviously the ego wants to hold on to that identity. It craves being right.
Mm-hmm.
How do you break through using the voice to shift into a whole new identity, to shift into something that is the version of you that you want to create?
Mm. So it's more about uncover the real you. So that's the voice will help you to uncover the real you, because all these current voices that a person has, or how they sound like, is 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 the result of all those disguises that we have put on. And when we are developing the voice, we are actually taking away all these layers of protection, these layers of external validation, these layers of looking perfect to other people. So that's what we're actually helping my clients to do, which is to peel off all those layers that actually they don't belong to you in the first place.
I call them plagiarized programming.
I like it.
It is you adopted somebody else's belief, and
Yeah.
well, that's what plagiarism is. It's
Yeah.
you took somebody's idea and you made it your own.
Yeah.
And so it's just plagiarized programming. The question is how can you strip away the plagiarism in order to uncover the version of you that really is that 100% connected to soul or whatever it is that you choose to believe in, that conscious version of you who you desire to be.
Yes. And also when we are developing this voice, in the process, we're doing a lot of exercises, making a lot of sounds. And in the process, I always ask my clients, do you feel comfortable when you're making this sound? Did you feel relaxed? Did you like this sound? So if you don't like them, don't feel comfortable, most of the times you are doing it wrong. And that's not your real voice. So most of the times when they really find their real voice, they will say, some of my clients, they say, I don't know why, I just like this voice.
That's an interesting meter to guide
Yes.
by.
Yes.
Is actually the connection to it feeling good and not knowing the why they like it. That's
Yes.
so commonly our conscious minds can and our thoughts can cloud with how things quote unquote should be, but not necessarily how they are. And sometimes it's the whole basis is I don't know why, but this is the voice that feels most comfortable for me.
Yes. And they're also the opposite, where some of the clients, when they are practicing, there's one client, he said, this sound, I feel like a frog. I said, okay, that's not your optimum voice yet.
And sometimes it can be trying on something and you know that it will fit or that it is supposed to fit or that it's something that you can fit into, that you can lean into. But at first there is that beginning stages of maybe feeling uncomfortable. Have you noticed that?
So it's more about trying out.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
when
love,
they are, yes.
oh, go ahead.
When they are making different songs and also the way they are making it, if they don't feel comfortable, most of the times they are not there yet. And once they find that, once they were able to find the right sound, the right resonance, I always say that it's like they have come home.
Oh, I love that. That is so beautiful. And so 100% true. I can speak from my own vocal journey of how I used to show up 10, 15 years ago with my voice back when I lacked confidence, but was totally faking it until I made it. Like, trying to figure out who I was and what I was all about. And I was playing with it. I love the fact that you brought up playing with difference of voice and allowing almost like testing something and then allowing for it not to be anything other than what it is. So with your experience, what are you most excited for in the realm of voice right now?
You know, the more I do this work, the more I felt that I was chosen to do this work for this life. And so I take it as my mission and also responsibility. And so I think what I'm really excited about is really to help people not only just discover the power of their voice from the physical point of view, but also from a mental and emotional point of view, so that they can really heal themselves by the power of the voice. So that's what I'm really excited about. And also to have more people in the world to be impacted by the power of their own voices.
So I love your mission. I think it's absolutely beautiful that the voice can lead to so many powerful breakthroughs. I know when I'm working with a client, I've been able to, you can hear it. You can hear the breakthrough in the voice, and also you can see it in the small micro muscle movements of the face.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're on the verge of that breakthrough, the shakiness of almost breaking through their own glass ceiling to open up all the possibility that they'd had, all that plagiarized programming previously blocking. It's one of the most rewarding experiences to see and experience that as a coach, as I'm sure you've experienced as well with your clients.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So what would you say are your biggest struggles now with your own voice?
I wouldn't say that it's a struggle,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say that it's how I can. So the thing is, even though voice is important and we are using the voice every day, but still, the people who realize the power of the voice is a very small percentage worldwide. So we have lost the ability to recognize the power of our voices. So if we say it's a struggle, my challenge or struggle,
Challenge, yeah.
yes. So there are a few words in my vocabulary that I don't use. Struggle is one of them.
Okay, I love that.
The other one is difficult. And I had a friend, he always uses the word difficult. So I always count the word difficult he used. So
yeah, there's a few words in my vocabulary that I don't use. And like we said in the beginning, like these words mean something different to each of us.
Yes.
And so for me, struggled is not a word that that I have resistance toward. Suffering is a word that I'm like, oh, no, thank you. I just reject suffering. But struggle for me represents like a physical challenge or some sort of challenge. So let's use the word challenge.
Yeah. So I would say that it's how do I raise the awareness worldwide to make people realize the power of their voices. It's like all people are going for yoga many years ago. And I would imagine that one day everyone would go for developing their voice power. And because it's not because it is good for my business growth, it is good because there is vast potential in the voice. And I really want more people to realize and experience that. So that's kind of the challenge I'm having, how to have more people experience that. And one of the things that I did was to have a TEDx talk to have more people realize that the long lost awareness and power of the voice.
I think I love the fact that you are spreading your message. And just by being on this podcast, you are spreading your message to more and more people about the power of the voice and how it not only it will benefit your business and your communication and your relationships, but it will also benefit your own self.
Yes.
And I know one thing, when I was going through NLP certification and which is neuro-linguistic programming, I'm sure you know, we all have different representational systems that we learn, that we experience the world through. There's visual, there's auditory, there's kinesthetic, and there's auditory digital. And auditory digital is and I experienced the world mostly through auditory, actually. And so my husband and I had the most powerful breakthrough in our relationship a few years ago when he realized that he was speaking in a different representational system. He's highly auditory digital. But but I'm auditory. And so when we would have those conversations, and if we would be in a disagreement, if he would say something curtly or shortly, and it just kind of suddenly get a little jarring with his voice, I would take it 10 times more personally or have a reaction that was stronger to it when he's not as auditory. So how, in your experience, have you been able to navigate the power of the voice for these highly auditory people who lead with that representational system like me?
Yeah, the auditory, so-called auditory people, it's a very small percentage. So you are the unique group.
Especially unicorns right here.
Yes. So for me, I am kinesthetic and I am external kinesthetic, where that when I learn new things, I have to experience it first. So auditory actually was something that I have developed. So that's why I always tell my clients, I said, you see, even though I'm teaching voice, it actually helped me to develop the auditory system. So that means that everyone can develop that. So what we do is we started to, first of all, that they started to listen to their own voices. So I always ask my clients to record themselves and then listen back to start to hear the nuances in their own voices first.
Or they can just start a podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where they started to grow their ability and hone their skills on listening. And then there are clients who started to be able to tell the difference in other people's voices. And then they will come to share with me, oh, I hear this person's voice it was like this. I hear that person's voice was like that. So that's one way that they can start to develop their auditory ability.
I love that. Now, how have you, let me pause while I formulate a question that, with your career trajectory, where do you see yourself in the next 2 years? What project or what thing would you love to look back and be so proud of 10 years from now?
One of my heroes is Malala, a young girl. So even though she is still very young, but you see that the things that she has done was so different and also make such a big impact. So I was very inspired by her. And that's why, there were quite a few thoughts running in my head in the past. One day, there was this thought. The thought said, oh my God, if I die one day, then people would not know the power of their voice. So that's why I was deciding on that day, I said, I have to do something. And so I really want to make a bigger impact. And to, even if I die, but people still can continue developing the power of their voices and can continue see voice as such an important power. So 10 years from now, I really hope that I would be able to make a bigger impact and to have more people get impacted get inspired by their own voices.
That is such a beautiful mission, and Malala is a hero of mine as well. With her book was phenomenal and so inspiring. In your industry, have you noticed that there is a disparity between men and women struggling with their voices? Do you find that is it pretty equal with people who are challenged with their voice, or do you find that there is more women than men, or men than women? What have you discovered?
There are differences. So for example, women, they came to me. One is their voice was soft. And two is that I find there are more women having the throat chakra problems than men. And also the other problem is women's pitch is higher. And there are also more women have nasality problems. But that doesn't mean that men do not suffer these problems. But there are men. I did have clients male clients who also had a very nasal voice, but the percentage was very small.
Mm.
For men, it's more about one is more men have a monotonous voice.
Oh, aw, poor men.
Yes. So they're not as expressive as women. And
Do you
the other
think that's
one,
because of the emotion that
yes.
women are more naturally?
Yeah. So because we are more wired to feel.
Mm-hmm.
So the other problems for men is that they want to build the so-called the bass sound in their voice.
Mm.
Have a deeper voice.
And what with building up that base, is that building up the breath?
Oh, so it's breath is one. The other one is they have to develop more resonance in their voice.
And that resonance, where does that resonance land in the body?
So more will be in the chest cavity.
Mm. Fascinating. Your work is just fascinating. So with the work that you have done,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel that women specifically, because my audience is mostly women,
Mm.
can hone their voice? If you were to have, if somebody were to come up to you and ask you in 30 seconds to give your best piece of advice that they could walk away and put into practice immediately, what would you say that they could do in 30 seconds?
Two things. One is that the first thing we talked about is to be more relaxed. So when before they go into meetings, important presentations,
Mm-hmm.
important phone calls, they can take a few sigh to relax. But the sigh, you see, is not a depressed sigh. It's a joyful and relief. So it's, and so that's one thing they can do. The other one is because when people are nervous, this is where most people got it wrong, which is that they feel when they're nervous, they have to take more breath. It is actually the opposite, because when you're nervous, you are holding the breath. So instead of taking more breath in to get you more tense, you actually need to breathe out first, purposely breathe out when you realize you are tense. So purposely breathe out, and then you take another breath in, then you use the breath to speak.
I hope everyone was taking notes in the over the course of this episode, because Cynthia has delivered a masterclass in breath and voice work and mastering that, and it's only the beginning. I mean, I know your work is deeply extensive,
Mhm.
so I am so honored that you have shared so much, and so grateful. How do you think being a woman has helped you in your career?
So I think it helps me be able to relate to women. So imagine a man doing voice training. So then women probably don't feel related. And so for me, I am able to relate to a lot of women. And so I know the struggles, and I know what women are good at and what women are or need to improve more of. So that's one thing that it helped me. And at the same time that um, it also helped me to raise the voice for women, because they are all kinds of things that women can do. It's the same for voice training or coaching. It's not only just men can do, but also women can do to help women raise the profile as well.
So what is the biggest lesson you've learned along your 20-year journey of executive voice coaching?
Um, the biggest thing that I've learned is to really check in at any time, really check in with how I am feeling. So if I don't feel right, if I don't feel good about doing certain things or saying certain things, then I would not do that or say that. If I feel okay, or if I feel that this is something that I must say, I must do, then I would go and do and go and say it. So it's really to check in with how you are feeling at every moment.
Mm. How has your voice specifically changed from when you started on your path to where you are now?
Mm. So when I started, my voice was not full. It was deep. when I was young, since young, I had a deeper voice, and that's why when I was singing most the lower and the middle range.
Mm-hmm.
And so what developed in the first place was the fullness in my voice. And then the second area was the whole spectrum of the expressiveness in my voice. So that's where I started to experience the beauty of our life that it can offer, because it not only offers the rational side, but also offers the right brain world, which is so beautiful. And so that was the second area that I developed, which also gave me so much appreciation towards life itself.
Cynthia, you astound me. You truly, truly astound me. And your voice is so comforting. I know on your website, you reference Morgan Freeman and his voice.
Yes,
Everyone knows Morgan Freeman's voice.
yes.
It is so resonant and deep and comforting. Where would you like your voice to be in 10 years' time?
Um,
Or do you set goals for what you are working on with your own voice?
mm. So I do not have goals for my voice, because once you developed your optimum voice, you you are at home.
Hmm.
So I am at home with my voice. So
Do you ever need a remodel?
so there will be no remodeling. So when you find this home base, it's like the so-called, you find your authentic self, you find your true self or spiritual self. So
Mm-hmm.
I have found that home base. And yeah, so that's the reason that I don't feel there's another spiritual self that I need. So I have found it.
There's such a beautiful centeredness that your voice expresses.
Thank you.
And I know all of our audience can hear that because it's it's grounded. It is that spiritual home base of where you land. And so I love the fact that you expanded on that. So let's get into a little bit of rapid fun fire for just to wrap things up. Are you ready
Mhm.
for it?
Sure.
So, who is your favorite female character in a movie and why?
Mm. Um, so the first one came to my mind was Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. So I think a lot of characters that she has portrayed, I like the one in the Hunger Game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think overall that the reason I like almost every character that she portrayed was because of the authenticity in her, the authenticity and the depth that she understands this character. So may not be a female character in a movie, but almost every character that she portrayed.
I I couldn't agree with you more. I am a huge Jennifer Lawrence fan. If you were queen of a country, what would be your prime focus?
um, the prime focus would be that how to better people's lives in a way that this is also the life that they want to live. So
Mm,
that would be my my focus.
I love that. Yeah, not other people's lives of what they expect for it to be, but their
Yeah.
own choice.
So you see, this is actually the advantage for women, because for women, we're always thinking about how to be of service to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what would you consider to be your kingdom?
My kingdom would be a group of people who are like-minded, who are also enjoying helping other people. And then we are gathering around and we are together in this kingdom to make more contribution to the world.
Mm. I want to be a part of your kingdom.
Sure.
What woman would you want to trade places with just for a day?
Just for a day. Yeah, probably, someone like Dalai Lama.
Yeah?
Yes. So I think he was one of the people who was inspiring me in my journey, especially my early journey. And also I always look up to him. You see that he is very calm, but he has such a big impact and he has such a big following. And by his calmness, that he would be able to transform people. So if I can trade one day with him, that would be great.
What daily habits have best served you to hone your voice?
It's something that I started last year.
Yeah?
So I didn't start it long, even though there are so many people talking about it. It was meditation. So I didn't know until I started to practice it. So since last year, every day I spend about sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes to do meditation. It has been so helpful because it gave me the time to get quiet, to really listen to how I feel, to listen to what I need or want the most.
I love that. I recently began the practice of transcendental meditation back in July.
Mm-hmm.
Transformative work.
Yes.
Transformative.
Yeah.
If you had to have your success at twice the speed, how would you have done it?
I think it's collaborate more, collaboration. So every one of us, my ability is limited. And also there are things that I'm good at. There are also things that I'm not good at. So if I can collaborate with someone who can complement my so-called weaknesses, I think that'll help me to progress much faster.
A rising tide lifts all boats. It's one of my favorite quotes. And lastly, how do you crown yourself?
I would crown myself as someone who, someone who never gives up.
Yes, resilience is essential.
Yes.
Cynthia, it has been a pleasure. Where can we find you? How can we work with you? How do we get a copy of your book? Tell us all.
Sure. And it was also very enjoyable talking with you as well.
Thank you
So
so much.
yeah, people can one is that they can go to my YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel has over 150 videos, and we have about 29.5 K subscribers now. So we're hopefully we can reach 30K very soon.
You will, for sure. 100K.
Yeah. So then they can go to YouTube and search Cynthia Voice Coach. Then they will be able to find my channel. And the other way they can start to experience the voice work is my 3-part free video lessons. So in that 3-part video lessons, I went through the step-by-step system that will help them develop their powerful voice. So they can go to bit.ly/voice crash course. And to get a copy of my book, they can go to Amazon and then just also search Cynthia voice coach. They should be able to find the book.
And that book is titled Influence Through Voice.
Yes.
Cynthia, it has been such a pleasure. I truly hope every single person was taking notes. And if you weren't taking notes, if you were driving, hopefully you weren't taking notes while driving, then I hope you go back, listen to this again, take notes, and start practicing. Get Cynthia's step-by-step system. Start practicing honing the resonance of your voice and your breath, and feel the confidence that you will get just by shifting the tonality of how you communicate. Mm-hmm. It has been so wonderful having you on, Cynthia. Thank you so, so much. And for all of you out there, if you love this episode, please take a screenshot of it, tag me on Instagram at Crown Yourself Now, and let me know, what was your top takeaway? How are you going to start practicing your voice? How are you going to start honing that amazing, authentic self that you are, and stripping away all that plagiarized programming, using the vessel of your voice to guide you there? Thank you so much for listening, and remember to own your throne, mind your business, because your reign is now. For tuning in today. If what you heard resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and share your breakthroughs and ahas with me by leaving a review on iTunes so I can keep the magic flowing your way. And if you aren't already following us on social media, come experience the extra inspiration and queenly convos on Instagram at Crown Yourself Now, or visit our website at crownyourself.com. I am so excited to connect with you in the next episode. And in the meantime, go out there and create a body, business, and life that rules.